It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist.
Welcome to Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome in to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 181 today. Really glad that you're with us to enjoy this next hour together. And if you can be clothes-free during the show, so much the better. Let's enjoy this together, even if it is vicariously or through the radio or through podcast land. Clothes-free living for all of the right reasons is the way to go. We've explained why. We explained why we believe that. And we believe that you believe that too, and that's why you are here. So let's do it. As we enjoy the pool today, the hot tub is fired up, the grill is going full bore, and our guest grill master today is Gary Kite. Gary was on the show a few months ago. He is from First Coast Naturist in the Jacksonville, Florida area. So we thank Gary for being down there on the lanai in the patio area, firing up some terrific breakfast, brunch, lunch that we will enjoy after the show today. Cold drinks off to the left. We also have fruits and vegetables off to the right, hot drinks inside. We have a hammock, putting greens, bocce ball action outside the pool area. Coming back in, we have that famous cigar bar, help yourself. And we do have extra chairs, towels, and suntan lotion just for you. We have it all for you. You only have to come in and enjoy clothes-free living for all of the right reasons, and we will have a terrific hour together. Well, on today's show, part one with Mitch London, the former ANNR president and currently the secretary-treasurer for ANNR. And, of course, Lisa Monroe, who's walking through the door right now. And, in fact, I hear some music. Do you hear it? Let's listen together. Oh, yeah, there it is. That can only mean one thing. It's time for the great, the terrific, the completely over-the-top, fully clothes-free and fully smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the one of a kind, the one and only, the completely clothes-free and fully smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. I am doing fantastic today.
That is great to hear. And so
Yes.
Let's have a little update now since, the last few days, since Wednesday. How much naked time outside, how much pool time, how much beach time, how much just clothes-free time in general?
Well, as much naked time inside as I could have, as much naked outside time I could have, but that wasn't as much as I wanted. And unfortunately, no beach time, and I need to fix that because I have this swimming to the sea kind of response to the beach, and I need my fix.
All right, so a couple questions here. Now, you said as much naked time inside as you could have and as much naked time outside as you could have. I understand the outside. You can't always be naked out there, depending. It could be neighbors, could be weather. But naked inside as much as you could have, why wouldn't that be all of the time you're inside?
Well, there has the little fact of having someone come in and repair something, so I thought it best to put clothes on.
Well, okay. I could make a comment about that could lead to a discount, but I won't say that because that might be considered to be rude.
You must trust my judgment on these things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, okay?
All right. All right. Well, as everybody knows, we gave up paid work to do this show for free because, and I've said this before, and people, I guess, took this as a shot, and it wasn't meant as a shot. We try to be honest around here. I personally wasn't getting enough content. And so what could I do to generate more content? Well, I could light a fire under people. That didn't work. Or we could do our own. So we decided to do our own show for free to help out the community and spread the word about the joys of naturism, clothes-free living for all the right reasons. But giving up that paid work put us in a hole because there are expenses, and we turn to you, the listener, help on Patreon in any way you could, and we give you gifts in return, depending on how high up the chain you go. And on each show, we try to highlight 2 new PPPs, paying Patreon peeps. Lisa Monroe, who do we have today?
Today we have James and Harry.
That's right. And by the way, you said James and Harry.
Yes.
Too bad that wasn't turned around. It would have been Harry James.
Oh my God, it sure would have. And I like Harry James, but we like James and Harry too.
We do. Now, before we get back to James and Harry, you do know who Harry James was, right?
Yes, I am a jazz fan.
Okay.
I do know who Harry James is.
Okay, well, not
Why do you
everybody
always
does.
question whether I know something or not? My goodness.
Well, that's my introduction to showing off all of my vast knowledge. So if you say, no, I've never heard of the guy, or yes, I have, I could break in with, yes, but I know more. Because that's the kind of
tell
person
me more
I am,
if you choose to, because I'm apparently your straight man now. It's instead of your companion on the air. So, okay, you go right ahead and tell us all about Harry James.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know that much about him. He was a big band leader, mostly became really big in the 40s. And yes, that is before our time, before anybody writes in and makes a snide remark.
Yes.
But he was also, he was in a lot of movies. He was kind of a ladies' man, and he was married to Betty Grable, for heaven's sakes, who was a big-time movie star back in the day. And I read before the show, because I saw this, James Harry, it triggered Harry James. He passed away in 83. I would have thought he had passed away long before that, but no, 83. And he got sick and had lymphatic cancer, but continued to perform and gave a performance, and then shortly thereafter passed away in 83. And that's your history lesson on Harry James, unless you want more.
No, thank you.
You
gave me some information I did not know, and the fact that he was ill and still performed shows what the level of professionalism and commitment that he had to his music and to his work and his life. So that was a great thing.
Yeah, that's what it takes. But back to Patreon. James, thank you very much. And Harry, thank you very much. And we thank all of our PPPs. And we're giving something new. We started this a few weeks ago now. We are sending each show one day early to all of the people at the top of the PPP chain. So if you want to get your action roughly 24 hours early, there's no guarantee on the time. Just it'll be the Wednesday show will come to you sometime on Tuesday. The Saturday show will come to you sometime on Friday. And that gives people in North America, as well as over in Europe, a little heads up. But it also gives people in Australia and New Zealand, because sometimes they have to wait. Well, they do have to wait until Sunday, because now with the time change, it's discombobulated all over the place. But during our winter, a 6 a.m. show on Saturday hit at midnight Saturday night in New Zealand. Now it's changed. It's a little bit shorter. It's like 11 o'clock at night. And then it'll be 10 o'clock at night. But it's still pretty late on a Saturday night. This way, they'll get it on their Saturday morning, I guess, or whenever. So we're just trying to give you one more perk. So the PPP's top level, you're getting the brand new show a day early. And so far, the feedback has been pretty good. People seem to enjoy that, Lisa.
It certainly has been. And I know we have some people in the area below the equator who always said, I can't wait. I know the show's dropping. I can't wait. I can't hear it till tomorrow. So, and we love that. And so we're trying to help out a little bit so they can, enjoy it with their morning coffee instead of a midnight snack. So,
well, some of our New Zealand folks have said, your Saturday show gets to us after we go to bed on Saturday night.
Right.
Then we get up Sunday, and that's a family day. So I can't listen to your show until, their Monday.
Right.
And so in their minds, they're thinking it's 2 days later, which makes sense because we always advertise Saturday. They're listening on their Monday. Well, now you get it a day early. So everybody seems to win on that. And if you'd like to be a PPP, you can find us on Patreon, Naked Nudists and Naturists, or just click on the link, which is in the show notes, every single show notes of every single episode that we've done. Lisa Monroe, how about merchandise? What's going on in that land?
Well, we're just plugging along. We've got lots of different merchandise with different logos on them, and people are responding very well, especially to the little leaf one, so they can be undercover. So if you're interested in taking a look at the merchandise, just go to nakednudistandnaturist.com and click on NNN Shop, and there we are.
Now, I very seldom, because you keep some supplies here, I seldom wander into that closet, not for any particular reason. It's just not part of my usual stop along the way each day. But I went in there yesterday, and the place where you were keeping the towels, that is empty. What's going on there? Are we selling those like hotcakes too?
The towels have been one of the biggest sellers, which they're not a small item, but they've gone very, very well. And a lot of different ones we've sold NNN ones. We've sold, the Clothes for Living for All the Right Reason towels. We've sold Naked Nudists and Naturists for the most part, a lot of those. And so, now if you've got one of those, but you don't want to take it to your public beach, grab one with a little leaf on it, and then you'll know who you are and what you are, but nobody else will know unless you want them to.
Right. I think that's a good way to do it. A lot of people do that with different articles of clothing, mostly what they wear underneath. Like, I'm wearing this and I feel great, but nobody else has to know.
This is
kind
true.
of the same way with a leaf towel from Naked Nudists and Naturists, you're saying?
I believe so. And, your leaf mug at work and, or your leaf tumbler at work and that kind of thing. So, and they really look good. I mean, it's an attractive little leaf. And, you can say, oh, I don't know, someone picked this up for me. You just cover it that way, but you're still promoting naturism for yourself. And that's the good thing.
Or you can just flat out say, oh, I'm glad you asked. And then you can tell them the whole story and maybe bring them into the joys of naturism too, right?
That could certainly work, and we wish it would happen more often. Unfortunately, sometimes it can't, but we do wish it could.
All right. Well, we got a lot of feedback on a show from, I think it was episode 176, the Playa Sonrisa. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, we've just delayed in getting this out there because it continues to come in. We spent much of that show talking about Playa Sonrisa in Mexico and all the expansion they're doing, 27 brand new homes. You get a quarter acre of land, a fully equipped, a brand new house right now for $100,000, the first 7 people. And after that, the price goes up to $200,000. And a lot of positive feedback, Lisa. And I know you got some as well.
I certainly did, because I just talking to some friends who listened to the show, and they said, oh my goodness, what a great idea, because they were thinking about going to Playa Sonrisa, but they haven't really gotten a time frame or anything down. And it was like, this is tempting. It's very, very tempting. So I think that, I think a lot of people are probably sitting back thinking, this is an amazing kind of way to protect naturism. I know it costs an investment, but it is protecting a beautiful place for naturists to go, and also giving them something in return, even a income source if they want to rent their place out. So a lot of people have even talked about the fact that, they're interested from an investment standpoint more than anything. So we certainly hope that the people rise to the occasion and they actually go and join them, and, at least give them a call and find out what's happening, and maybe things, will have to start happening quickly, because it's a great deal.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's basically what the feedback has been from our listeners as well. So congratulations to Blaney and Steve, and we'll keep up with them. We'll have them on the show not too far down the road, too. I want to read this article today. It was posted by Orthodox Nudist. He is the gentleman. We talked about him before. He had been doing a blog, and in 2022, he stopped. And then he started hearing our show in 2023, and he thought, well, if these guys can put out a brand new show every week, I can certainly get back to writing a little more occasionally and consistently. And so he did. In late 2025, he came out with 2 articles, I think 2 in 2025, and he's written a whole bunch more in 2026. But this one was his second one back in 3 years, and it talked about us. And it's entitled Naked Encouragement. And it starts off with, I am back for a second post. Hopefully I won't disappear again. So, yeah, this is the second post back. Why start again when I ran into the ground 3 years ago? Well, I finally feel like myself again. I am free from toxic relationships. I am busy, but not nearly as overwhelmed. I am more confident than ever in my nudism. Perhaps I have more to say on the subject now that I can breathe a bit more. Yeah, I would say so. And Lisa, why don't you take the next paragraph?
Also, I'm encouraged by all the other media out there in the nudist world. I don't read many blogs, but I do love a good podcast or dozen. Podcasts like Naked Nudist and Naturist have started to give me a lot of food for thought. I have also expanded my collection of vintage naturist magazines from the 50s and 60s. There is so much material there to study.
Yeah, exclamation point, too. And we should point out, as I told him in an email, this is slightly edited for brevity.
Right.
But going on, it's been awesome to see a general uptick in media related to the new lifestyle. For several years, I have been a podcast buff, listening to anything from economics to history to theological pods, but the nudist space was sorely lacking. Isn't that what I said to you back in 2023?
Yes, you did, and yes, it was.
Yep. At least that was the case until July of 2023 when a little podcast, now, we'll have to talk about that word later.
Not so little anymore. Okay,
What's that former governor from Minnesota used to say huge instead of huge, just the way he pronounced his words?
Yes.
We ain't so little no more. We are huge. But anyway, well, just kidding around here. When a little podcast called Naked Nudists and Naturists popped up in my Spotify feed, host Frank Stone and correspondent Lisa Monroe report on all things within the naturist community every week on Wednesdays and Saturdays. How was that for productivity? I went 3 years without posting, but they post twice a week. And take it from there.
While I don't get to abide by their admonition to listen while clothes free, they do make my weekly landscaping job a bit more fun. I do the yard naked vicariously through them. I'll get to writing up a full review someday soon, and maybe one day they'll let me on the show if I prove worthy. And last but not least, in my recent inspirations, old nudist magazines. I love collecting physical media. Vinyl, CDs, DVDs, books, magazines, old photo slides, really anything with an image or sound that I can hold in my hands. I used to buy In magazine when I could find it at Border Books. Then I started buying what I could online. I have a modest collection of naturist publications from the 90s to early aughts. But being the history nerd that I am, it wasn't until I won some old issues of Sunshine and Health from the early 60s that I really got excited about nudist magazines. So much so that I bought another entire stack of 21 various publications from 1959 to 1966.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, he said maybe I can be a guest someday on the show if he proves worthy. Well, we have a very specific, rigid set of standards you have to pass to be on the show, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we certainly do.
One, you have to be either into clothes-free living for all the right reasons, or you want to find out more about it. So that right away, that's pretty much everybody in the world, I would hope. Maybe not, but
I believe it is. Well, we wish.
Yeah, or at least people are thinking about it, being naked. And the other one is you have to be able to speak English very specifically. If you can't talk or you don't speak English, probably can't be on the show. It's a radio show, podcast, so the visual doesn't work. So you have to be able to speak. And because you and I are not fluent in other languages, you got to speak English. So, boy, that's pretty strict set of standards there. You got to be naked and be able to talk. Otherwise, you're not coming on.
Hey, I think there'll be a lot of people that will qualify for that, thankfully. So, but every time he talks about these books, these naturist magazines, I don't know why, but I love watching reruns of MASH, and I can tell you every time I hear of that, it was Hawkeye waiting for his next nudist magazine to come, and then grabbing it and getting it and starting to read through it. And that was probably my first time that I even realized there were such magazines. And for me, that was a great introduction through Hawkeye because he was such a cool character. So, all for nudist magazines.
Yep. Okay, well, speaking of MASH, now I didn't watch that show. It wasn't on my radar, no pun intended. I would say radar, even if there weren't a character on that show. But there was a show, and we talked a little off air. I guess this was not the final show of the series, but somewhere within. I'll have you tell it since you watched the show. But there was a flight or a helicopter or something. There was a crash and no survivors. And this friend of mine told me about that. Now, again, I didn't watch the show, but I knew the characters. And he almost broke down in tears telling me the story. And that was the first time in my life where I realized, wow, people really get attached to these characters on TV shows and radio shows as well. But do you have any more insight on that?
Well, just briefly, that particular episode was when McLean Stevenson, who was the original colonel on the TV show, was sent. He was sent home. Basically, his tour of duty was over, and he and Radar were very close. And at some point in time, the plane crashed, I think, over the ocean. And there were no survivors, and that's when Radar came in with his. I think he was holding his little teddy bear, but I'm not sure. Maybe he wasn't. But he came in and interrupted them in the surgical theater to say that there were no survivors, and it
Oh,
was a
wow.
very sad show. But then after that, Harry Morgan became the colonel. So then he was there for several years after that. So
Okay. Well, that's one of those jokes within the industry. It's not funny to McLean
yeah,
Stevenson and his people,
yeah,
but he had this award-winning show. He was popular beyond popular. Decided to leave it for his own show, which didn't work out and fizzled
mm-mm,
fairly quickly. And then you never really heard much about him anymore. He had
no,
bit parts here or there, but so you always want to be careful before you dive off. Make sure you know what you're giving up and make sure you have a lot of confidence to go forward. At the same time, I give him a lot of credit for taking the shot.
yeah,
It was what Michael Jordan said, you miss 100% of the shots that you never take. So at
yeah.
least he took a shot.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you don't take risk, if you don't work and try to strive to make yourself better and to, gain some other level of creativity, then I think you're kind of stagnant. But
Mm.
MASH was a fabulous show, and like I said, Hawkeye, those nudist magazines kind of left a real impression on me because
Nice.
I didn't know about those. So it was a
Yeah.
great show overall.
All right. Well, finishing up the article from Orthodox Nudist, there is something about digging into the roots of our movement that gets the senses going! Exclamation point. If I can describe what Orthodox nudism is to me, it's definitely found in these! Another exclamation point.
Mhm.
I will probably focus quite a bit on these publications in the coming months as I have time to read and digest them. And why don't you go ahead and finish up?
All right, that is it for now. I hope this teaser gets you coming back for more, and it certainly does. I would love to know what was going on in those magazines and what the attitudes were, and because in some ways I think they were a lot freer than we are now. I think that, at least within the community, they were, just enjoying it and didn't really care who knew. And I think it's terrific. So I've actually like to have him on to talk about this. I think it'd be great.
Yeah, no, I agree. And looking at his site, Orthodox Nudist, he has tons of articles he's already published in 2026. So he's kept true to his word. Took 3 years
Yeah.
off. These little pipsqueaks, Frank and Lisa, show up and they're banging out 2 shows a week. I better get back to work here. They've shown me the way, so here I go, and here he is,
Yes.
doing a great job. So hats off to
Yes.
him.
Who knew
You know
we
what?
were trendsetters?
That's right. That's basically our lot in life, right? Everybody
I
looks at
guess
us
it
walking
is.
down the
Mm,
street. Look at those cool people. I want to be like them. We just have that effect on people.
we sure do, don't we?
All right, let's finish up. We got this note from Jessica and Tom, and they said Socrates once said this, as did Eleanor Roosevelt. Now there are a few years of living between those two,
A bit.
but they thought it would brighten our day, and it said great minds, great ideas, and it really has to do with great minds. Focus on innovative, high-level concepts, philosophy, and creative problem solving. That's what great minds do. They focus on ideas. Average minds focus on events. They center on happenings, news, daily occurrences. Small minds focus on people. They focus on gossip and personal details about others. Now, I first heard that when I was in high school. It's from a friend of mine. It stayed with me ever since then, which has only been, what, 9 years since I
Yeah.
graduated. And we like to tell
Your
people,
memory is very
yeah,
good. Yes.
yeah. None of that stuff about the age is true. We're just putting it out there, but we like to go with it and say we're
Yeah.
27. What the heck? It makes life, we feel younger that way.
Yes.
But that is what we try to do around here. Is we always focusing on moving forward. Higher level concepts, higher level thinking. We don't get bogged down in the junk, and we just keep moving forward and figure out a way to get it done, which we've done now. Well, shoot, today's 181, so I think we've at least figured out this journey reasonably successfully. What do you think?
I think so.
That's it. And if you get bogged down talking about events like, and events is, it's okay to talk about that once in a while. I went to a concert last night. I'm going to the store tomorrow. That's okay, but don't spend your whole day focusing on it.
No.
And certainly the whole gossiping thing and personal details about others, you get nowhere with that, and you're not increasing your place in the world. So just focus on higher level concepts, ideas, philosophy, getting better at everything you do in life. And we thank Jessica and Tom for that. And Lisa Monroe, with that, we're going to have to duck off to part 1 of my interview. If you promise to stay naked as a jaybird, we'll see you at the end of the show. Is that a deal?
I will be naked as a jaybird, and I'm going to go do inventory in the closet. So I'll see you back in a little bit.
All right. Sounds good. The very terrific Lisa Monroe as she goes dancing out of here yet again for some more coffee. Nothing wrong with that. We appreciate everything that Lisa Monroe does around here, including lending her time, her voice, and her energy and ideas to the Naked Nudist and Naturist podcast show. Again, we thank Lisa Monroe very much. Well, you are listening to Naked Nudist and Naturist, episode 181 today. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're engaging in clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. Let that stress roll away. Let the breeze and the sun wash over your skin and just enjoy this hour and enjoy today and next week and next month and so on down the road. Well, let's get to part 1 of my interview with Mitch London, the former president for ANNR and currently the secretary-treasurer for ANNR. Part 1 with Mitch London. We are headed to the state of Texas today to talk to the former president of the American Association for Nude Recreation. And he decided to come back, and he is now the secretary-treasurer, so he's busting tail as much as ever. Let's bring him to the show this morning from Texas, Mitch London. Good morning, Mitch. How are you today, sir?
Hello. Good morning. Doing well.
Yeah, I'm guessing going from president to secretary-treasurer, you worked 25 hours a day as president, but secretary-treasurer, you probably have nothing to do, right, other than sip coffee and maybe have some crumpets or two?
Yeah, let me just grab a sip here. It's still hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about the same amount of work, but it's not spread out throughout the year. It's mostly once the meetings happen, that's when I start working. After that is then I've got 30 to 60 days to get all the minutes done, and now I transcribe everything, so I get to listen to the entire 4, 5, 6 hour meeting again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that? Twice.
So yeah, twice at least, so
meetings,
if I have to, and so I don't know what my previous, secretary treasurers have done. But I basically take it and I use my computer to transcribe, so I play the recording back and then have it transcribed. And then I go back again and follow it because, of course, the transcription is never perfect, especially when you get names, or cities and things like that. It's just like, I don't know. So that's mostly what I do on that part. And then I have to parse down the meeting because I don't want, when I did the very first one, I had 68-page minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Nobody's going to read that.
No.
So I have to parse that down into, the essence, i.e. the minutes of the meeting, and the business at hand, things that were decided and things like that. And, it's definitely a learning curve. I haven't gotten, I've done secretary treasurer for other clubs, but none as big and definitely as fun as this. But, it's definitely an interesting learning curve. And, I hope to do what I did when I was the president is by the time I'm done, I can have a list of things that I do throughout the year and then pass that on to the next person who takes over the position and say, here's my suggestions of what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And, kind of a guidelines, because I've definitely been in other clubs where it's like, all right, you're the new president. All right, well, what do I do? Well, I don't know. You're the president. You figure it out. Okay, sure. Great. Wonderful. So, I don't want to leave the next person in a lurch. And I did that with Linda, and I gave her like 3 pages of a month by month breakdown of here's what to do, when to do it, how to do it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And feel free to edit, because things change,
Yeah,
So
and then she'll probably tweak it as she goes along. And then,
exactly, and pass it, and that was the whole intent. That
yeah,
was the whole intent. So I'm going to do the same thing with the secretary treasurer.
yeah, we had talked on a previous interview about having people around you or within the organization who have long-standing institutional knowledge, and that's just one more aspect of it. By the time this is all said and done, let's say 10 years, 20 years, you'll have had yourself, Linda, whoever comes after Linda, and after that person, all of these people weighing in, passing down the history to the next president or the next secretary treasurer. So you're right. They don't have to go in wandering, bumping into walls. What do I do now? Well, here's what Mitch did. Here's what Linda
All
did.
right.
You probably ought to start
Right.
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not spending 3 months of the whole first year trying to figure it out, where they can kind of jump in and go. So
Yeah. Now that's ideally how it is day one. Boom. We're doing something, whether
yeah.
it's big or little or medium. I don't know, but I'm not going to sit around waiting for something to happen. We're going to dive in and do whatever we're supposed to do. Now, my understanding, because I worked with minutes forever, I didn't do the minutes.
No.
I'd have somebody do them, and they'd pass them to me for review before I gave them to the board for review and all that good stuff in the outside world. But basically, you're trying to memorialize the meeting, right? The key issues that were
Right.
voted upon. Yeah, here was the vote. And do you also try to get in maybe if somebody spoke, like Joe Smith
Sometimes
said
it
this?
depends on the discussion. If it's germane and important to what was discussed, and if it's especially if there's emotion involved, it's like I move to do such and such. People can get the idea of what was discussed rather than just saying people talked. It's like, well, what was
Yeah.
how did it go? Were people mad? Were they, hey, this is a great idea. We really want to push this through, that kind of thing. So but not everything word for word. Otherwise, again, you end up with 68 pages of minutes, and it's just, nobody's going to read that. You want to be able to, and that's what the whole thing is the minutes are just a breakdown of the highlights. I've seen some minutes of meetings that were super long that were like 2 pages, and it's just like, okay, yeah, that's quick read, I guess. So
Gives the idea.
yeah, it gives a very general idea.
Now, ANNR also recorded those two meetings. Are those meetings going to be publicly available, or is that just for internal use, or what?
That's mainly for internal use, and also for me. Max Shutoff, who's Eric's son, who's the executive director, is our tech guy behind that, who does such a great job. He records those, and then he makes the audio available to me because I don't really have. I have my little handheld, microphone that I use that I pick up the stuff that happens in the room, but his also picks up what's on Zoom, and he gets all the questions on there, and it's a whole lot clearer than what I get. So I take basically kind of the two and go between them and figure out what's the best audio, because when I play it back on my computer, I basically play it on the speaker and then have the computer listen to itself and transcribe that way. So, a little low tech, but hey, it works.
That's all that matters is
Yeah.
the final product, and how you get there is up to you, right?
And I've heard people say, well, you could just upload them and have AI generate the minutes. And I'm like, yeah, two things. AI is wonderful and all, but I don't necessarily trust it to do correctly. I'd still have to go through it line by line to see if it's correct. And secondly, I really don't know if I want to upload all the minutes and people's names and such to AI, because who knows where it's gone from there. It could be perfectly great. I do not know. Whereas I do it on my computer, I know where it is.
That's probably pretty smart, because a lot of what came out in the ANNR midwinter conference, I think it's called, is protecting the names, the identity, and personal details of members. So that's just one more way you're doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, people, we all walk around with these personal computers in our hand, and, sometimes they're just permanently attached to our face.
Yeah.
But, and they're all, and a lot of them are always listening. So, I mean, we're not, all perfectly secure as we'd like to think we are. And I understand that, because, you're sitting there chatting and you say, oh yeah, I bought some dog food the other day, and all of a sudden there's dog food ads on your phone.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
wait
right.
a minute.
That's right.
So, I know that, everything we say is not always, secure as we want or we think. But, it's just an extra step I take that I don't want to just upload to somewhere and have it figured out.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. Again, my job mostly is like right after the meeting, and then I get kind of a break.
Okay. Yeah, the protecting the names, identities, details. You're right. A lot of we don't know the details yet, but somebody somewhere is capturing all this stuff. But you're not adding to it, and that's the
Right.
most important point. I think is somebody within ANNR is not adding to the fact that details are out there. So that's highly commendable.
And
To not,
that's one of the big things that we're working on currently at the Midwinter. We, are working on a confidentiality agreement slash policy, so that if our trustees of the regions are requesting member information, from a club saying, "Hey, this club dropped below its numbers all of a sudden. What happened?" And then maybe I can contact the members themselves and say, "Hey, what's up? Did you forget? Whatever." We're working on that agreement so that, if for some strange reason that person uploads all those lists of names to the internet, there are consequences. But it also makes them agree that they won't do that. So again, we want to make sure that our members, because there are a number of our members that are still, working day to day and sometimes in sensitive positions, not necessarily like military, but there are, but
yeah.
more like, teachers where they, if what they do goes out, it could ruin their career. I think one of the people at the meeting had that happen to them, and he got ANNR to help them out, and he got asked to come back,
Oh, good.
and
Okay.
and so but they just hear something and they're like, oh, we have to protect people, so kick them out, do whatever. So
Yeah. Well, if somebody, you brought up a good point. If somebody does not renew their membership, I'm guessing they're contacted, but how would you, if you're going to be the guy contacting them, how would you get that name and number? Is it in the ANNR office? Would you have to contact the club or the region?
correct, yeah, they would make a request on the through the trustee portion of the website, which is
Okay.
only available to the trustees or the region presidents,
Okay.
and they could make a request to the office. It is basically kept all in the office, and so they would
Okay.
be, currently I think they'd have to call the office and say, I need this person's name or whatever. But also the office, if something like that happens, the office tends to reach out as well to say, hey, what happened? We need to, can we sign you up for another year or two or whatever? And sometimes people just, oh yeah, I forgot, I meant to do it, didn't happen, or who knows what happens.
Yeah.
That's why they also, like, last summer I think it was, they started the auto renewal thing, so they
Mm-hmm.
have the option to opt out of the auto renewal. It's kind of for the direct members, is what we're starting, is what they started with, is when
Okay.
you sign up as a direct member, then you basically get auto renewed every year on whatever your preferred credit card of choice is. And they can check the little box saying, no, don't auto renew me, but they can still contact me to, hey, ask me to renew, or I'll do it, or I prefer to send a check in, or however, whatever they want to do. So,
Okay.
that auto renewal definitely helps keep people, keeps a lot of people in the club, because, some people just, they forget, I've been in clubs where I'm a member and then I do it for a couple of years and I just forget to do it because I got 100 other things to pay for. So,
Yeah.
or maybe they're just taking a break for a while. Who knows? We just don't know, but, we like to ask and make it as easy to keep going as we can.
Yeah, and it's always good information to get. Whatever their reason is for not renewing today, what is the reason? You can log that. So if we get a whole bunch of people saying they're ticked off or whatever, well, then we got to find out why and
Yeah.
fix that and get them back in. Or if it's just a bunch of people, I was on vacation or it slipped my mind. Great. Can you renew today? Yes, we can.
Yeah.
So by reaching out, that gives you all the answers you need. And not all answers will be great, but as I always say, it's better to have the information than not have the information. It sounds like
Right.
like you
And then they
agree.
can compile that information and then find out, hey, maybe there's a trend in, why certain people are not renewing for certain reasons, and they can try to work on making it better, that it makes it easier. So
Yeah, I had one. I won't identify the person or the region, but somebody from an ANNR region wanted some information from the ANNR office in Florida, and they were told they could not get it. They could go to the region president, and then he could make a request, and he might get it or not, and then this person could use it on a limited basis. So he was appealing to me, and I thought, well, I'm the last guy. I don't have
no.
an office. I'm not there. I don't volunteer. I wasn't elected to anything. We're the official podcast, but that's totally different. And I said, just so you know, when I ran businesses and offices, you wouldn't have gotten it from me either. We have to protect our intellectual property, but also the confidentiality. And if there are 7 regions, that means there are 7 of you doing the job. And when you leave, now we got 7 more. So now we have 14 people with access. And you just multiply that out over the years, and it's going to be hundreds and eventually thousands who have access to confidential information. That's just ludicrous, especially when you're not even doing the job anymore 20 years from now. And of course, this person didn't like that answer, but that's how the world works, right? And ANNR seems to be doing a really good job with protecting everything.
Well, and we just at the midwinter made a committee to actually kind of address that, is to make a we've got the wording set up to say that we're going to have a confidentiality agreement. Now we're just going to hammer out what exactly the confidentiality agreement says, and says you can and cannot do with it, and when you're done with it, that you need to return anything or destroy the documentation that you have. And then list the punishments, literally, as it were. He's like, we can bring litigation against you if you don't, and I think there was a person that was very keen on that, on the specifics of that being in the documentation of the ruling documents. And so that is something that we want to do. And we basically made the committee, and they said we are going to have it within 2 months, because this is an election year. All the positions are open for the trustees and the vice president, the president, and secretary treasurer. So if you want to run and represent your region, please do. Because it's always good to get new people in there.
Well, that's really good information, because I didn't know that. At the national office, you have 3 elected officials. That's yourself, Linda as the president, and Patty as the what is her role?
Vice president. Yes,
yeah,
you're correct.
Yeah, okay. And so all 3 of you are up for election, but you're saying everybody in every region is at the end of the 2-year cycle at the same time as well?
Basically, there's the 2-year cycle, and then they can run for 2 terms. So some of them term out. And then others, if they don't get a representative, then the region can represent, or can pick a representative to be the thing, which is what happened in the Southwest region a couple of years back. But if you're going to run for president, you have to have, there's an extra stipulation that you have to have served in a certain role for a certain period of time before you can just jump in and say, I'm president, and, taking over. But the secretary treasurer and the vice president are the 2 upper positions that are, as well as the president, that are up for, members of ANNR to be a part of, and really learn the meat and potatoes, as it were, of the workings of ANNR. And then of course the trustees, you have to get 10 signatures. It's all listed on the form, but you basically kind of put your name in, and then you get your 10 signatures of people that are supporting you. It's like, yeah, I want this person to run. It's kind of a way to, that you're not just getting 400 people. You actually have to go out and do a little bit of work. And then when you send that into the office, then they send out like a little questionnaire that you can fill out. And then I think in the May issue of the bulletin, they put all the list of people and the answers to their questions. Like you see during a lot of election years, they have all the questions that they ask the politicians and say, what is your stance on this? What do you think we should do here? So.
Okay, but the regions, I'm guessing they have a president, vice president, and secretary treasurer.
Yeah,
all of those people are up at the same time every 2 years. They don't stagger or anything.
They might do it differently. Each region can be somewhat different. Like I know the Southwest region, we have a staggered thing. So we have ours are a 3-year term. There's a 2-year term and a 1-year term. So they can run, And then so like the 1-year terms are up, and then the 2-year terms. So it's like so they technically have like elections, I think, every year, kind of thing. So for certain positions,
I was just thinking in terms of our United States government, the House of Representatives, everybody is up for election every 2 years. So in theory, we could have a brand new House of Representatives every 2 years. Now, obviously people get reelected, but in theory it could happen.
Right.
The Senate, though, only a third of them are up for re-election every 2 years. It's a 6-year term, so it makes a big difference. So that way only, if worst case scenario or best case scenario, depending on your view, a third could get voted out, but you still have 2/3 with that institutional knowledge.
Exactly.
And so people do get reelected, and as you said, they get termed out after 2 terms. They have to leave. But what about the trustees? I thought their term was longer than 2 years. It's not?
It's 2 2-year terms is what they can do.
For a trustee?
I believe so. Yeah. They can do 2 2-year terms.
Well, that's the same as everybody else then.
It depends. I mean, because again, but they can also run for then they could run for vice president, and then so they get another set of 2 2-year terms, and then they could run for secretary treasurer and get another 2 2-year terms. So they could be there for 6 or 8 years, technically,
Okay.
just kind of bounce around positions, and that's how we did it in the Southwest too. Like one year, the secretary treasurer became the another position. They were the president, and then they were the vice president, and so you still keep a lot of that institutional knowledge, which is, a really important thing, because you don't want a whole fresh board that has no idea what's going on, what happened before, and be like,
Okay.
oh, what do we do? I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, we might be talking about two different things. You're talking about the region, the trustees of regions. I'm talking about the global trustees for the ANNR office. They are only 2-year terms. They can do it twice.
I could only speak to the Southwest region, really.
Okay.
I know, because I know that's what they've done. But again, all this is on the ANNR.com website, which there's the ruling documents that people can go to and read about all that, and it's a lot of information, but that's one thing I definitely think the trustees, new and or old, need to do, is go through the ruling documents and actually read them.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of information about how we do stuff in there,
Yeah.
and that's in there,
Yeah. I've worked with boards forever, but I've also served on boards. And being on a board or being in a position like yours is a monumental time commitment and work. And sometimes you don't want to do it, but doggone it, you committed to it. You have to do this. So that's important for people to know too, right? Before they throw their name into the hat, like, okay, I'm throwing my name in. If I get elected, I'm going to be ready to bust tail. They have to know that going in, and that's in the documents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense, because you don't want people, oh, I have a title, I can just sit back and drink coffee for the next 2 years. Oh, no, we're going to expect you to do something, take on a committee or do something along the lines, not only throughout the regions, but through the ANNR office as well, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Now, I heard during the meeting, the midwinter conference, that membership has gone up, in my view anyway, somewhat significantly. I want to say the number was 2,400 plus. I think 2,405 sticks in my head. I could be wrong. What do you attribute that to? Just reaching out and gathering more people in?
It could be that. It could also be part of the auto renewal that we had, because I didn't know if he specifically said that those are new members, or if they're just members that we haven't got lost or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Because if you lose less than you gain, then your numbers kind of stay up, I guess. But if we actually gained new members, I mean, they have been doing a huge push in the membership marketing committees, to get more members. So it's been it's an uphill battle, certainly. And we've got some really good people leading all those committees right now, and they've done an excellent job. They did a presentation at the midwinter, kind of giving some of that information out and what their plans are. They've got the My Body, My Story campaign that they do, where they've been posting stories from people about their nudist story and how they got started and what happened and things like that. And it's definitely a younger crowd trying to do the membership marketing, which is where we want to go. They're very tech savvy. A lot of new updates to the website. And so, we got to make it more appealing for people that always come up and ask the question, well, what's in it for me? What do I get out of my membership dues?
Right.
And, you're never going to have the perfect answer to fit everybody, because, you don't know what necessarily they want out of it. Do they want a free membership to the next club, or do they want, protection of their rights to be nude? And that's usually what I tell them is like, are you enjoying being nude at this resort right now? He's like, well, yeah. Well, that's about 80% of what we do, is protect the right for you to do that. And the government affairs team works tirelessly every single day. And when election, or when legislation comes around, they're on it. They've got software programs that looks at every single state and Canada to find out what bills, and they are able to section out keywords. I'm sure you probably talked to some of them about what what might come up and mess with our right to be nude and ability to be nude. And sometimes it's, accidental, just the way they word it. It's like, well, this now could be construed as saying you can't be nude in your shower. And there was actually one that kind of said that almost without intending to. And it's like, well, how can I not, it's just, yeah. So they're out there, and that's the biggest thing, they're keeping an eye out for us, making sure that we still can do this.
Yeah. I talked to, it's been a year or two, probably almost 2 years ago. I talked to Tim Mullins, who still heads up the government affairs team, right? He's still the
Yes.
leader. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was explaining all that. And then I heard some stuff at the midwinter conference in terms of the software that you mentioned. So they don't have to study every blasted thing that has, and much of it would have nothing to do with ANNR. It just kind of weeds out what they really need to focus on. And then I talked to Gary Messel as well. And I know he was the president of the West region. He never took on a national office, but he was still pretty heavily involved with GATT, the government
Right.
affairs team. I don't know if he still is or not, but yeah, that's, and most people don't get excited about that. We talked about that before. If you say, hey, where can I go to be naked? Well, we have this government affairs team here. Nobody wants to hear that. That's
Right.
kind of like your 68 pages of minutes.
Yeah.
They just want the fun stuff and the cool stuff. And where do I go to have some fun this weekend? But if you don't do that, you mentioned it's about 80% of the work behind the scenes. If you don't do that, you're not going to have any place to go except your own backyard, and then only if it's private, right?
Yeah. He does a monthly report from all the regions. He's got another leader in each region that then reports to him, and then he compiles all that stuff.
Okay.
And then he sends out, and they have a monthly meeting, at least a monthly meeting, and they send out notes to the different people in the region saying, here's what we see in your region, here's what we see in your region. And then a lot of times big giant red flags come up, which happened a couple of years ago in Wisconsin, and we got the members whirled up and said, hey, send your representatives a letter. Here's a thing to send them. And we got that worked out, which is a good thing. And that's, again, if we had just sat by the sideline hoping it didn't happen, or didn't have the software, or have on occasion people to send us saying, hey, there's something happening in our area, you might want to check into this. If we didn't have all those tools, we would not be where we are today.
Right.
We would have so much less freedoms, I think, as nudists, to do what we want to do, even if it's just simply sunning in our yard.
Yeah, incredibly so, because there's still people out there who view the naked body as, oh my goodness, the world's probably going to end by noon today because I saw somebody naked.
Yeah.
And I always want to ask those people, well, when you were born, do you know what you were wearing? Or if you have a kid, what was your kid wearing when he or she was born? And we always say around here, we're not trying to normalize naturism. We're just trying to inform people that it already is normal. It's just a matter of them getting it and realizing, oh, that's how we were intended to live. Oh, okay, now I get it. And at least in my circle, that tends to work to a degree. We don't have instant converts, but at least they begin to think of, oh, well, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, we were born naked. People in the olden days, thousands of years ago, walked around naked. Where did the clothes thing come in? I thought, okay, now I got you. Now we can talk for a couple hours and have some fun. And I'm sure you've had that experience as well.
Yeah, a lot of it is how you act. Nudists, naturists, we act normal the same way we act when we're clothed.
Yeah.
But people that think it's a sexual thing, they think we act in sexual manners, and therefore it's sexual. It's like just being nude is not sexual.
No. But that is how it's portrayed in society. And so when they see it on TV or the movies, like, oh, okay, now I know what you guys are doing. You're having a big hootenanny, for lack of a better term. It's like, no, I'm just sipping iced tea while lying out in the sun. It's a big difference. Big difference.
Yeah, yeah. And there's, people that are trying to make it, like you said, they're trying to keep it so that people realize that just being nude is not lewd, and that's kind of a thing. And one of our region president in the Southwest region, Dan Hawkins, is a nude model, and he's been doing it for 40 plus years. I think you've chatted with him.
Yeah.
And he just recently, did a movie called The Pastor Jim Moore Story, and it, is about a pastor. I don't know the whole details because it's not out yet, but it, talks about nudism and how he thought it was this horrible, horrible thing till he went to actually investigate it. And he's like, oh, well, actually, it's not what we thought it was. you know, because a lot of people, a lot of times, you know, they say, well, this is how it is. Well, how do you know? Have you been there? Well, no, but I know how it is. Like, how can you know how it is if you've never seen it or looked into what it is?
Yeah.
Well, I just know, you know, so that's what people fall back on. But an interesting front on his thing is apparently he just got, I think within the past week, a distribution deal for that movie, a global distribution deal, from what I understand. So that movie will be going out to theaters.
Wow.
And
Whoa,
so, I don't know what theaters, but some theaters somewhere. And I don't know if he's starting, you know, in the European countries or in the U.S. or both or what exactly, but you'd have to ask Dan about that more specifically.
Yeah, we talked to Pastor Jim on this show probably maybe in our first year back in 2023, could have been 2024. And he told us the whole story because we had him on for the full interview.
Ah, okay.
And so he was the pastor of a church, and one of his people came to him and said, hey, my sister, brother, whatever, you know, adults, they are nudists. Can you please talk to them and tell them how sinful this is? He goes, yeah, absolutely, I will. But give me a week. I want to study the Bible passages to make sure I'm fully armed to get these people out of their sinful life. I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
And so then as he was studying the Bible that week, he realized, oh my goodness, this is actually normal. It's expected. That's how God made us. That's how he intended us to live. And now what do I do? And then he realized nudism, naturism is normal, which is what we keep saying here. And then he ended up going to a nudist resort, he and his wife, and somehow somebody found out about it. And then he actually got fired from being a pastor for being a nudist. That's, you know, you mentioned before, some people lose their careers over it. And that's what happened to him as well. So thankfully, he's gotten back on his feet and things are going well for him. But it just shows you when people don't know, they make judgments and decisions based on what they don't know, which makes no sense, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's crazy how that can happen.
Yeah. Now, we don't do it in most places in life, make decisions based on facts we don't know. Like even a car. I want to buy car A or car B. I'll buy car B. Well, why? I don't know. It just seemed kind of cool. Why not? And then you buy car B and it falls apart on day 2 because you didn't know. You didn't check it out. If you checked it out, you'd realize naturism is normal, as you know, Pastor Jim finally explained it. It's great that he's getting a big forum for this now, as well as Dan and Tim Chismar and some other people. Mitch London, the former president for ANNR and currently the secretary-treasurer for ANNR, in our next week's show, part 2 with Mitch London. And before we head for the hills until Wednesday's show, let's bring back in our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Welcome back.
I'm back, and I have a list in hand. I will be off to reorder a few things to stock up our little closet, because I do think people are like, you know, saying, oh, I want that. I'm going to give it to so-and-so. So it's working out well for us.
Yeah, well, especially that towel shelf. That was as bare as you are right now. And you being bare is a good thing. Our towel shelf being bare and not so good.
It is not good. So those are coming very soon. And and so are a couple of other items. We were getting low on a couple of T-shirts, and I actually hadn't ordered any of the new Leaf shirts, so I guess I better do that. So we have a few of those around if somebody stops in.
All right. So before we duck out of here, any plans over the next few days to be naked as a jaybird? Mm-hmm. Not inside, because I know you will be, but anything outside?
Yeah. I'm going to try to get to the beach.
Ooh,
I'm hoping to get to the beach. Want to join me?
I'll be there. Just tell me when and where, and I'll arrive.
It sounds good to me.
All right.
We'll make a plan.
All right. Well, with that, let's head for the hills. And again, as we always ask you to do, make a deal here with Monty Hall. If you promise to stay clothes-free until Wednesday, we'll see you for Wednesday's show. Is that a deal?
That's a very big deal. Thank you. And we'll see you guys later.
You bet. Well, you've been listening to Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, episode 181 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, and on most Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist. Have a great clothes-free day.